Hello. Welcome to my channel Touching Stories. You're about to hear an amazing story about love and unexpected decisions. Enjoy watching. Sylvia sat in the kitchen making a list. Okay, wine, meat, condiments, condensed milk and eggs for the cake, and oh yeah, also cucumbers and mayonnaise for the salad. You didn't forget anything, did you? Yes, I did. A little hidden video camera. That's right, I have to stop by and check the prices. Oh, my head hurts and I'm sleepy. I'm going to lie down. I'm exhausted. The girl had been living with her fiancé, Austin, for a long time and was on her way to the wedding. They had already filed an application in the registry office, but lately their relationship had been far from ideal. The couple was constantly fighting, although there was no reason to do so. The thing is that for a month and a half, Sylvia felt very bad. She always wanted to sleep, had a headache, severe weakness, and sometimes even dizziness. More than once the girl had been to the doctors. She had undergone tests. She was told that she was absolutely healthy, but in fact Sylvia was getting worse and worse, and it was very frightening. Not only that, in the house began to happen something devilish. As soon as she fell asleep, the rooms afterward were a mess. Even the linen in the closet had been turned upside down, as if a mermaid had been set upon. Sylvia had tried 100 times to talk to Austin about it seriously, to ask him if he was doing all this, since there was no one else in the house but the two of them. But he had only wagged his finger at her temple and guffawed. Sylvia, are you out of your mind? Have you seen enough mystery movies? What kind of ghosts? I bet you've been looking for something yourself and you've forgotten. And you've got your health on edge. The doctor said there's nothing wrong with you, and now you're doing it again. You're too mistrustful, nervous, so you think up all sorts of nonsense. The girl got annoyed. Well, I should probably know better, whether I'm good or bad. Do you think I'm an idiot, and I do not remember what and where I put and where I took in my own house? So another scandal broke out, and there had been more scandals than I could count. Sylvia began to worry. If this keeps up, there won't be any wedding. We'll split up and that's it. Not to be too harsh, she decided to have a reconciliation party. She made a list, planned to cook a delicious dinner, open a good wine, buy expensive lace lingerie, and sit one on one, and to make vivid memories. Sylvia wanted to hang a small hidden video camera in the kitchen. It would be great to lie on the couch 10 years from now and watch how they started their life together. The next day, the girl was bustling around in the kitchen, frying, steaming, and cooking, even though she didn't feel very well. She was throwing out the trash in the bucket when a package of some pills glittered at the bottom. Sylvia mechanically picked it up and read the name. That's odd. Where did that come from in here? I certainly don't take that kind of medicine. I don't even know what it's for. After typing the name of the pills into Google, the girl read the description and was even more puzzled. It was a strong sleeping pill. Austin was lying on the couch looking for something on his laptop. The girl handed him the empty package and asked straight out, "Honey, look what I found in the trash can." "Do you know whose it is? I certainly don't take those pills." But he snapped back, like always. "Oh, Sylvia, don't start. I think you're already paranoid. You're climbing through the trash cans now. Please stop it. How am I supposed to know what you're throwing in there? I thought you said tonight was a surprise and make-up night, and now you're doing it again. Enough already suspected me of all mortal sins, or soon you'll start going to women's wives." The girl closed the thread, not wanting to spoil the evening, but she had made her conclusions. She and Austin sat in the kitchen, had a nice dinner, drank a glass of wine, and that was it. Sylvia went back to sleep. She woke up the next day with a headache and she couldn't understand it. What on earth? I had such plans and now I was asleep again. And I only had one drink. How can that be? Suddenly she remembered the camera she had hung in the kitchen and curiously watched the tape. As she watched, she went pale, grabbed her head and changed her face. The video showed Austin slipping something into her glass and stirring quickly while she took the roast out of the oven. What a scoundrel. Now I see why I sleep all the time and where those pills come from. But why is he doing all this? What's the point? It's just a sleeping pill. It can't do much harm. That's weird. We've got to keep an eye on him. From that moment on, Sylvia was careful to watch what she ate. In front of Austin, Sylvia would only pretend to drink and quietly pour it down the sink herself. Within days, all her symptoms were gone. She was as alert as ever, and she had no desire to sleep at all. But the girl would not tell her fiancé about this. On the contrary, she began to complain more about her bad feeling and pretended to be asleep. Another terrible truth came out. Poltergeist really wasn't in the house. It was Austin, in his role. He was the one going through things when he thought the bride was sound asleep. Well, that's out of line. Sylvia decided and went to see her only and best friend Alice. She needed someone to talk to. They sat in the kitchen, her friend knowingly laying out the cards and frowning. "What I say to you? Unclear your groom. Oh, and a dark horse. And the ladies are around him and the house is official. And bad interests. Oh, Sylvia, why did you ever get mixed up with him? I did not like him, though I'd only seen him once and then only in passing." She sighed. "You remember how we were growing up in the orphanage, surviving as best we could. We fought for every piece of bread. We wore those ugly gray uniforms and oak boots like beggars. Together they dreamed of escaping, of never returning to poverty, of living in a new way. I was so happy that I got the house from my late parents. I can't tell you with words. Remember when I started out working 3 shifts as a maid to get by and pay for everything? And then I met Austin. I liked him a lot. He was from a rich family. His parents were businessmen. I thought they would be against me, an orphan. Why would they have such a family? But I was very mistaken. Alexander and Luana were so hospitable to me, like my own family. On the contrary, they tell Austin that he was very lucky to have me. He used to drink and go for a walk, but when he started going out with me, he changed. And the fact that we live at my place, that's okay. It's a big house, plenty of room. Austin insisted on it, by the way. But it makes me feel better. I only go out for 3 days a week, and Austin earns the rest. And we have enough to live on, except for what he's doing behind my back right now. It's a nightmare. It's like he's been switched. It's like a woman's feeling that he's got someone. We fight all the time. We're estranged from each other. Alice, I don't know what to do. Make a scandal and split up, but then I'll never know what he's up to. And I cannot endlessly pretend that I do not know anything. My friend had a thought. You know what, Sylvia, why don't I follow your boyfriend? He does not even remember my face. I have a professional camera, you know. I'm into this business for a long time. I'm still on vacation. That's it. I'll be like Agatha Christie. I'll keep tabs and report back to you. You just pretend like nothing's going on. And wait for the results. It's all right. We'll find the bastard. Otherwise, you'll marry him, and he'll give you more pills. You never know what's on his mind. Sylvia's friend took up the cause with a particular zeal. She changed her image, put on a baseball cap and half-face glasses, and began surveillance. Here, Austin left the house, had coffee at a cafe, drove around town, and parked outside a restaurant. Weird, why isn't he going to work? Isn't it Monday? Well, let's see what this goose is up to, Alice reasoned. She, too, entered the restaurant and ordered a cup of Americano, sat down at a nearby table. Austin was obviously waiting for someone too, and ordered 2 salads, a steak, and dessert. Suddenly, a glamorous beauty entered the restaurant, her eyelashes extensions, her lips halfway up her face, and her breasts of outstanding size. Austin, seeing her, immediately jumped up and helped her sit down, kissed her on the cheek, and said softly, "Hello, my love, I missed you so much. I've been waiting and already made us an order. All as you like." Alice's jaw dropped. Favorite. And then who is Sylvia? What a twist, you asshole. The couple sat for a long time discussing something animatedly. Sylvia's friend managed to sneak a couple of pictures, and she went home upset with what she saw. A week later, the friends met again. Sylvia looked hopefully into the eyes of Alice and asked, "So, any news? Did you get any information?" Friend heaved a sigh and laid out on the table picture, where her sweetheart cooing and kissing that glamorous bimbo. Quietly, she began to tell me, "Oh, Sylvia, there's nothing to please you at all. Oh, Sylvia, there's nothing to please you about. Austin doesn't work, or at least he hasn't been to the company this week, and I think the dame is supporting him, and I think she's supporting you too. You can tell by looking at her that she's obviously not poor. And the fact that they are lovers too, no doubt you can see everything." The girl burst into tears. She was so bitter and hurt. "The bastard! What about me? We have a wedding on the nose. What am I going to do? I'm going home at once, and I'll throw that scoundrel out. One thing I don't understand is why he's living with me, why he was going to marry me. If he's fooling around with that lady, I don't get it. And why does he give me sleeping pills? We could just break up. And it is not clear what he is regularly trying to find in the house." Alice hugged her friend. "Wait a minute. So you kick Austin out, and then what? So we'll never find out what that bastard was really up to. I have another suggestion. Let's hire a private investigator. Let him go through his own channels to find out what's going on, and then you can chase the groom away. What do you think of that?" Sylvia wiped away her tears. "It's a good idea. But where would I get the money for a detective? I would ask him to find out something about my parents. Who they were, what they did, where, and how I got this house. I still don't know anything. All the babysitters said was that my parents died in a car accident. That's all. Maybe I still have relatives." Alice reassured her friend, "Don't worry. I'll pay. I just got my vacation pay. You know, I'm well paid in a private clinic. More will earn. I myself am terribly curious how it's all going to end. If we're going to work it out, we've got to get it right, and you give it back when you can." Sylvia hugged Alice and cried again. "Thank you for your help, Rescue. You're the closest person I have." Sylvia pretended she knew nothing about it and continued to live with Austin, though she gave it with great difficulty. She began to literally hate him, wanted to tell him everything, and ask him why he was so with her. But a deal was a deal, and she restrained herself. Truth from intimacy with the scoundrel she now refused, referred to the ill health and sleepiness. He was not even upset. He pretended that everything is fine. What a two-faced man. The next day, the girls went to the detective agency and concluded a contract. They hired a good, trusted detective. Victor was a former police officer, had a nose for bloodhounds and a lot of connections in the agencies. After listening to the girls, the man scratched the back of his head. "Yes, indeed, the picture is quite interesting. We should double-check everything. Okay, I'll take your case. Leave me your number and wait for the results. I'll get back to you. Until then, I ask you to live as before. So your fiancé doesn't suspect anything." All right. 2 more weeks went by. Sylvia dragged her feet on wedding and kept making excuses. "Oh, honey, I don't feel well. I'm going to another clinic to get checked. I don't know what's wrong with me. What if something's serious? Let's wait another week or 2. Let's not book a banquet hall yet. I'm exhausted." Austin was getting annoyed and raising his voice. "Whatever. Maybe you don't want to get married at all. You've lost your mind about your health. I think it's time for you to see a psychiatrist." Finally, the long-awaited call from the detective sounded, and Sylvia and Alice rushed to him. Curiosity and anxiety just took them apart. Victor looked intently at Sylvia and began a long story. "I'll tell you right off the bat, it was a very complicated case. I could barely get the information I needed. I had to use some of my old connections, and in some places I had to apply a lot of pressure. Let's start with your family history. It turns out that your parents, Sylvia, are millionaires. Your father, Mr. Jacob, was the owner of a jewelry company, and quite a few. They really did die tragically in an automobile accident, which must have been set up by someone who didn't like it. I pulled up the file from the archives, and there, too, everything is ambiguous. An old gardener who worked in your family at that time told me a lot about it. Well, your father was repeatedly threatened. It is common in this kind of business. So just in case, he hid all the most valuable things from everyone, as if he felt that it would end badly. And exactly where, no one knew. After your parents died, your father's attorney, Tony, suddenly volunteered to be your guardian, as if he felt sorry for the orphan, and decided to take you in and raise you. You were only 3 years old at the time. But the scoundrel was crooked, grabbed himself a posh mansion millionaires, and you, Sylvia, quickly put in an orphanage. Of course, everyone was paid handsomely, and the whole thing was closed. Your parents, it turns out, had 2 mansions. The one that took Tony was built at the peak of your father's career, and the other, simpler, in which you now live, your parents have lived in since the beginning of life together. That's what Tony gave you through intermediaries as a severance payment, so that his machinations are not known. That's the way it is, Sylvia. I think you've got it all figured out by now. You should have known what I had to do to get this information together. Sylvia was in complete shock and couldn't get a word out. A friend joined in the conversation. I still don't understand what this has to do with Austin. What's he got to do with it? That's a mystery, isn't it? Did you find out anything? Victor continued. Well, I don't take money for nothing. Once I'm in business, I'll see it through. Well, fiancé Austin, named after your father's friend Tony, is none other than the son of the same lawyer who put Sylvia in an orphanage, instead of raising her in his family. I've talked to your father's former colleagues, and I've found out that many people think that your late father hid all his valuables in this old house where you now live. Tony, sir, recently died, and apparently before his death, he told his son about the hidden wealth. And the rest is just as it was written. The scoundrel gets acquainted with you, rubs his trusts, says that he is the son of wealthy parents, which is partly true. The mansion he really has a posh, and his father was not poor on your parents' money. And to make you finally trust him, he hired actors for money who successfully played his rich parents. He does have a mistress, Caroline, who is a self-serving woman. She never misses out on her profits. So they have decided to get all the valuables by any means, so that they can live in poverty until their old age. But how do you find them if you live there? And to keep you out of their way, Austin's been drugging you while he searches for you. I don't think they were going to kill you. They didn't have the guts. If they had really found something, your fiancé, or at that point your lawful husband, would have just dumped you for nothing. Such an unpleasant and sordid story. Sylvia cried softly. What am I going to do about it? What about love? I was going to live my life with Austin and have children. He never loved me, did he? He was just using me. Victor just sighed. I did my job, all the truth learned, and what you do, it's up to you. My advice, get rid of scoundrel and hire specialists to search for treasures. They will tell you exactly whether there is a treasure in your house or not. If you want, I can help you in this matter. Advise a good friend with an impeccable reputation. He is a master of finding what is hidden from prying eyes. Oh, and in case you're wondering, your parents are buried in the central cemetery, right next to the big birch tree, and the number is 1603. I found their grave to make sure of that and to verify the fact of their death. We should clean it up. Apparently no one has done that for a long time. Alice took Sylvia to her place. They sat in the kitchen and cried together for a long time, trying to understand how to proceed and what to do. Her friend sincerely offered her help. Do you want me to go with you tomorrow? Together we will drive the bastard away. I will beat him up. You know how I fought at the orphanage. What a jerk. What a jerk. What kind of scam is that? How did you even think of putting up the camera in time? Otherwise, you'd still be walking around like a sleepwalker. Sylvia just cried and waved her hands. No, Alice, don't. I'll do it. I want to look that bastard in the eye. I can't get it out of my head. And I thought, well, how it's on me, a mouse gray, a rich guy attacked. And it turns out he only needed my millions. How can I trust people now? And most importantly, why for so many years, none of the surrounding father told me the truth? Who am I? Whose daughter? That's the question. Girlfriend just shrugged her shoulders. Well, what do you want? It's only in small towns I'll know about everything, where gossip spreads faster than the wind, and in the megapolis. Who cares about orphans like us? They got their money's worth and forgot about it for years to come. The next day, Sylvia arrived home and began determinedly packing her fiancé's things in a suitcase. She packed a lot, put all the bags in the courtyard, and invited a craftsman to change the locks on all the front doors. The girl was very belligerent and was not going to forgive the scoundrel under any circumstances. Unsuspecting Austin arrived in the evening, supposedly from work, and could not understand anything. The key would not turn in the lock, and there were some suitcases near the bench. He started calling Sylvia on her cell phone, but she was out of range. The guy freaked out, knocking on the window, yelling, "Sylvia, open up. What's with all the tricks again? Let's talk. What are you up to now? I'm sick and tired of this." The girl decided to come out, and she looked at Austin with hatred. "Let's talk, my love." And she threw in his face a picture of him kissing Caroline. The guy realized he was caught and began to twist and turn. "Sylvia, I'm sorry. You can't be serious. I love you, so I made a mistake once. Who doesn't? She seduced me. I didn't mean to. Let's just forget everything and start over. Why ruin it like this? We're about to get married." His duplicity and perfidy made the girl even angrier. "Let's start over." "No, thank you. I have a videotape of you slipping me sleeping pills. The day we reconciled. Yes, I set up a hidden camera because I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. You were the one who was drugging me all the time. And you accused me of being crazy and making things up. I kept thinking, why? So I hired a detective. He explained everything to me. You never loved me. You were just looking for stashed wealth in this house, weren't you? Daddy put you up to it. You're pathetic. I trusted you. Get out of here or I'll take all this to the police and the detective will help me. And you'll go to jail for a long time, along with your silicone hottie." Austin's face changed and he backed off. Jail was obviously not part of his plan. "Don't go to the police. Please don't go to the cops. I understand, and I'm going. But I want you to know there's no money in your house. I've been through everything, believe me. Of course I didn't love you. Have you seen yourself in the mirror? You're a skinny moth. And you're a log in bed. That's it, goodbye." Poor orphan. Sylvia slapped him in the face and shouted, "What a scoundrel you are. I hate you." And she ran into the house. She sobbed and drank some valerian and sobbed again. And she kept thinking, why is it like this? My parents were millionaires, and I'm as poor as a church mouse. I don't remember them at all. I missed my mother's tenderness and father's care so much. I thought I was lucky with my fiancé. I'd found my happiness. And then there's the cheating. Turned out to be a traitor. Am I some kind of unlucky fraud or something? Can't you just love me for no reason? I won't go near any other guy, since they are such scoundrels. Victor kept his promise and helped me find a specialist who looked like an old, balding old man with glasses and a goatee. He methodically, step by step, pounded the walls and floors and listened with some clever device. Finally, after rummaging for a long time under the tub, he exclaimed cheerfully, "There, I think there's something here." He began to move away the tiles very carefully. millimeter by millimeter, and suddenly right under it, Sylvia saw a built-in niche. In it, a small safe with a code lock. That's it. All this time she had been washing, walking on the floor, scrubbing the floor there 100 times, and she didn't suspect a thing. The old man wiggled his mustache, scratched his beard, and started trying to figure out the code. He entered various combinations, but the result was 0. Then he suddenly looked at Sylvia and tapped himself on the forehead. "I'm such an idiot. You're his daughter. He adored you." "Of course he did." "When's your birthday?" Sylvia said the numbers. The man typed them in reverse, and, oh wonder, the safe opened. There were some papers, stacks of money, bank cards, and much more. The specialist shook the girl's hand. "That's it. Congratulations, my dear. Now you own a large fortune. However, your late father was with the imagination, so cleverly hid it all. See how many years lay, and no one has found." The dazed Sylvia thanked the man profusely. She couldn't get her head around it. What a papa. She's so rich now, she won't have to worry about anything until she's old. Now that's a king's gift, I'll tell you that. In addition to the valuables and money at the bottom of the safe, there were a few pictures. Apparently my father decided to save them for posterity. There were the young father and mother, and she, Sylvia, in a funny cap and a pacifier. There was happiness in her parents' eyes. So they had loved her sincerely, and everything that had happened since had been a tragic coincidence. Then she looked at the photo, which must have been taken shortly before the horrible events. Sylvia was wearing a beautiful polka dot dress with a huge bow on her head, and the caption at the bottom read, "My darling daughter, Sylvia." These pictures were far more precious to the girl than anything else, for they were the memory of her family, which she didn't remember at all. Sylvia's first thought was to visit her parents' grave, and she went there the very next day. She wandered through the cemetery for a long time before she found the place that the detective had mentioned. The graves were long abandoned and overgrown with weeds, and the headstones were sagging and twisted. Sylvia broke down in tears, staring into the faded photographs of her nearest and dearest and dearest. She realized now that she looked just like her father, the same eyebrows and gaze, but her mother's hair and lips. The girl had been tearing the weeds and whispering with exasperation for hours. "Forgive me, dear. I did not know anything about you. Now I will visit you often, I promise." She did not immediately notice how a little boy came up behind her and quietly asked, "Excuse me, do you have candy or cookies? I would eat for the kingdom of heaven." She guiltily rummaged through her pockets. "No, somehow I didn't think of that. Tid, let me give you some money and you buy." The boy shook his head sadly. No money. Their stepmother will find it and take it away anyway and drink it away." Stunned, Sylvia continued, "She's hurting you, isn't she? What's your name? Where is your father? Why are you here alone?" The boy answered, "I, Tom. And my daddy is in the north, far away. He earns money and rarely comes. I tell him she beats me, but he doesn't believe me. My stepmother doesn't hurt me in front of him. I always go for walks here. They bring me sweets and cookies. What's your name?" Sylvia answered, "I'm Sylvia. Hey, do you want to come visit me? I don't live far from here. I'll feed you a nice dinner. Won't they scold you?" Tom was excited. "I do. I'm so hungry. No one will look for me. My stepmother is probably already drunk. She doesn't care if I'm home or not." Sylvia was astonished. The poor child. What is the father looking at? We have to help him and sort everything out. She put him in the car and took him to her place. Tom happily ate his cabbage soup and cutlets and then drank tea and a bun. Sylvia packed a whole bag of food for him and took him to the house. The house looked very neat and tidy, and it was hard to believe that the stepmother was really a hard drinker and abuser of the boy. Sylvia patted the baby's curly head and said, "That's it. Run home. Can I come and see you again tomorrow?" I'll bring you something nice to eat and meet your stepmother." Tom's excited. "Sure, Aunt Sylvia. I will be waiting for you." They said goodbye and the girl left on her way. Sylvia decided to watch the baby to casually meet the parents. Maybe it wasn't as bad as he described. Kids can fantasize, after all, to get adults' attention. Sylvia ordered a beautiful new memorial and pictures for her parents. But all the time, no matter what she did, her thoughts returned to Tom. His sad, brown, beady eyes and smile firmly stuck in her soul. The next day, she bought all sorts of goodies again and came to Tom's house. She rang and knocked for a long time. A dog barked in the yard, but no one opened the door. You never know. Maybe they've gone somewhere. Stuff happens, the girl decided and went home. The next day, the situation repeated itself and Sylvia became very worried. Maybe Tom wasn't lying and something really bad had happened to him. She walked around the house and began peering in the windows, trying to see something. Suddenly she thought she saw someone lying and moving on the couch in the room. So there must be someone in the house. So why didn't they open the door? She peeked over the fence. There was a huge padlock hanging outside. What the hell is going on here? Thought the girl, and didn't hesitate to go to the local precinct officer. He did not waver, listened carefully, then said, "Well, Tom's father is really in the north. He's been working long hours. The boy's mother died a long time ago, a year and a half after she gave birth. Something went wrong with her as a woman. Evan took care of Tom for a long time, brought him up as best he could, and when he grew up, he moved in with a woman, Diana, and he started traveling for work. Got a family to feed. Diana is a bold woman, of course, but I've never heard of her drinking like that. Let's go out. I'll take a look for myself." Sylvia and Kevin went back to the house, stomping around and looking in the window together. Indeed, there was someone on the couch, and they tried to get up. They went to a neighbor's house and found out that Diane hadn't been home for a couple of days. They thought she had gone somewhere with Tom. Kevin made the decision to pick the lock, took an axe and knocked it out the second time. Sylvia ran into the house. She had a bad feeling about it. When they saw what was going on in there, everyone's hair stood on end. There was a little boy on the couch, thrashing about in bed, raving, shouting, "Daddy! Daddy! Where are you? She is bad! Help me, please!" Sylvia put her hand to his head. The boy was burning. He had a high fever. His lips were dry and chapped. It was obvious that the child was very sick and had not eaten or drunk for a long time. The girl quickly brought water and gave the child a drink. He drank greedily and long and whispered, "Aunt Sylvia, you came after all." And then he fainted again. Frightened girl shouted, "I'm taking the boy to my place. Now I'll call a paid pediatrician and nurse him. Time is of the essence. And you figure out where the negligent mother disappeared to and how she could leave the baby alone and close it outside." The baby had caught pneumonia, probably caught a cold in an unheated house. Sylvia nursed him for 3 weeks, giving him the pills the doctor prescribed and giving him the rest of the treatment. Slowly Tom recovered, his appetite grew, and he was eating soup and fruit. The district officer found the address and sent a telegram to Tom's father to come home immediately. Diana was found 24 hours after the boy was found. It turns out that she simply went for a walk with some strange guy, completely forgetting about her stepson. The woman genuinely wondered why such a scandal. "Give me the child. It's my business how to bring up." Well, she went away on business. What's wrong? How did I know that he would get sick? And I locked him up on purpose so he wouldn't wander around. What a tragedy out of nothing. The policeman shamed her. "Shame on you. The boy's only 6 years old. You could go to jail for that, in case you didn't know. Nobody will give you the child. He is in good hands. He is in good hands. Evan will come, and you can sort it out yourself. It's not a family. It's not a family." Tom did not want Sylvia, all the time clinging to her, hugging her, looking into her eyes and asking, You're not going to leave me, are you, Aunt Sylvia? You won't give me to your stepmother. I don't want her. She always yelled at me, called me a jerk. She's bad and mean, only Papa doesn't believe me. He thinks I'm lying. Sylvia, too, stuck with the soul to the baby, happy to work with him, bought children's books and coloring books. They drew together, played, and they were so happy together. Evan finally returned and immediately rushed to pick up his son, asking the police officer for details. Sylvia opened the door. On the threshold was a young, tall, pleasant-looking man in his 30s. He bickered, "Hello, I'm Tom's dad. My name is Evan. I was told you rescued him and got him out. Do you have him now?" The girl nodded. "Hello. Yes, I have the boy. Come on in. He missed you so much." Tom, hearing his father's voice, ran out into the hallway like a jet plane and threw himself into his arms. Both of them cried, tears upon tears. Tom cried out, "Daddy, don't leave me again, please. Stepmother is bad. She hurts me. I don't want to be with her." And the man wiped a tear with the sleeve of his thick sweater and whispered, "Sorry me, my son, that I did not believe you. I swear I won't go anywhere else. And I'll take care of Diana. She won't hurt you anymore. We don't need that kind of mother." Then he looked up at Sylvia and looked at her that way and said, "Thank you, Sylvia, from the bottom of my heart. If it wasn't for you, I don't know what could have happened." "Well, I'll take my son. Do you mind?" Sylvia suddenly felt so sad, and she answered, Yes, of course you're his father. But I won't let you go anywhere without a nice lunch. Wash your hands and come to the table. Tom and I have everything ready." The three of us ate, Evan praising the soup and pancakes with meat, and then drinking tea. Tom was full and ran to look at the gifts his father had brought with him, taking them out of his backpack, and the man began to talk leisurely about himself. "I got married early. I happened to fall in love with Angela in high school. And that was it. The world sat together on her. I didn't need anybody but her. I worked as a driver after school. Angela worked in a kindergarten as a nanny. We lived like everybody else, not rich, but friendly and nice. We bought a plot of land. I built a house with my own hands. I put my soul into it. Then Angela got pregnant. We were so happy. But she was very ill. She could hardly carry the baby to term. There were problems with her health after a serious illness. Barely Toma gave birth. And then she was treated for a long time. Eventually it turned out she had cancer. Only the doctors noticed it late. They missed the moment. So my sweetheart died when Tom was only a year and a half old. I was so sad I did not want to live. Here for the sake of his son, and only held on until he adapted to look after him. So much have experienced. A year ago, on a friend's birthday party, I met Valka. She came to me this way and that way. In general, we woke up in one bed. That's how we began to live. Men told me not to get involved. She was a slut. She liked to drink. But I didn't believe it. I thought they were lying. Just jealous. Tom had taken a dislike to her right away. Hated her from the first day. But she kept telling me that it would pass, that the baby was jealous, and it would be easier later. With me, she never hurt him. And all I nagged, saying, "Not enough money. You have to look for a good income." So I went to the north. I thought I'd travel for a year, buy a car, and take Tom to the sea. I thought I was doing the right thing, a son and a stepmother. What's the big deal? And now I see that I almost lost my son. I'll never set foot in my house again. I sent her so much money, and my son, it turns out, in the cemetery collecting candy, not to die of hunger. I won't trust anyone else with my son after that. I am a lousy father. Sylvia tried to support the man. Well, who isn't wrong? The main thing is that everything ended well. I know what you mean. I was burned badly too, and now I don't trust anyone. And the groom was, and the wedding was, and the wedding was planned, and it turns out I was drunk on sleeping pills and had affairs with his mistress. So I have forbidden too. I won't let anyone else in my soul. And Tom is a wonderful boy. I'm really fond of him, I really am. I don't even want to part with him. You take care of him. Come and visit him, I will be glad to see him. My house is always open for you. They said goodbye warmly. Tom could barely tear himself away from Sylvia and kept asking, I'll come and visit you, may I? And you come and visit us. You are very nice. I would like you to be my mother. Sylvia blushed from embarrassment, but she was very pleased with such warm and sincere words of the boy, and Evan looked at her again, so heartfelt, took her hand in his huge palm and said quietly, I'm not saying goodbye. Let's be friends. See you soon. And thank you again. The house was empty without Tom, cold and alien. She paced from corner to corner, not knowing what to do with herself, and Evan was still on her mind. When he took her hand, it felt like fire inside her, and it felt like fire inside her, and it felt so good. Sylvia couldn't take it anymore, and rushed to her faithful friend, Alice, who was just home from her shift. They sat as usual in the kitchen. Sylvia, not giving a second thought, poured all the news on her. Then she asked, What's in store for me? I know it's not serious, but still. I keep thinking about Evan, and I fell in love with Tom like family. Honestly, Alice squinted and smiled. Aren't you in love, dearie? I have not seen you like this for a long time. I don't think you've ever looked happier with Austin. Well, let's see. Her friend spread the cards, and she immediately exclaimed, Well, this is different. There he is, the King of Hearts under his heart. You're in for a change, but it's a very bright, good card. And he's got nobody. That's it, my friend. Soon I'll marry you. You'll see. Sylvia's heart fluttered with joy. Come on, you say too. We barely know him, and you're just a wedding. But Alice turned the cards again. It's not me talking. It's the cards. They never lie. Wanna bet? If I'm right, you owe my favorite chocolate cake, okay? And indeed, the very next day, Sylvia called Evan and invited her to dinner. She happily agreed. She bought Tom some interesting puzzles, a delicious cake, and went to visit. She remembered what the house looked like when she picked up the boy, and was amazed at the changes that had happened in just a few days. Everything had been washed and cleaned. There were fancy new curtains on the windows, and a rich table had been set in the room. There was duck and apples smoldering on a platter in the middle, and several salads. Tom, seeing Sylvia, squealed and threw himself on her neck. Then he reported, I missed you so much, honestly. Sit down. Try it. I stuffed apples in the duck myself and helped Daddy cook it. We tried. Evan also looked at Sylvia meaningfully and added, Thank you for coming. You are the most precious and welcome guest for me and my son. Come sit down to the table. They had a good dinner, then they had tea with cake, and then they collected jigsaw puzzles presented to them. Time flew by, and it was time for Tom to go to bed. Suddenly he came up to his father and asked, Can Sylvia put me to bed? Don't let her go. She makes me feel so good. Evan looked tenderly at her and added, I don't mind. I feel so good with her too. I wouldn't let her go anywhere at all. Sylvia's heart was beating frantically. She felt so warm and good at heart. She happily tucked the baby in, told him the story of the polar bear. He hugged her, kissed her, and whispered sleepily, I love you, Mom. The girl could hardly hold back a flood of tears and replied, I love you too, my son. She came out of the nursery and she hesitated. Can you believe it? Tom called me a mom. I almost cried. It's so touching. You know, I really fell in love with him as my own. Evan took her hand. And me, can you love me? I saw you, so fragile, so tender, so real. Immediately disappeared. Marry me, Sylvia. I do not promise mountains of gold. I'm not a millionaire, but I will cherish you as the most precious treasure. Sylvia pressed herself against his prickly cheek and whispered, "I agree. I can't live without you and Tom. You're all I think about. Just dare no more earnings on the watch. We need you here. I think you'll find a job here too." Evan kissed her passionately, and they never parted again. A month later, the wedding took place. Sylvia looked adorable in her long, lacy, snowy white dress. Evan didn't leave her side for a minute and held her hand like he was afraid she would disappear somewhere. Little Tom, in a bow-tie suit, strutted proudly through the wedding palace, holding a bouquet for his mother. There weren't many guests, only the closest ones. The maid of honor was Alice, of course. She was having fun, dancing and flirting to the utmost with one of the invited guests from the groom's side. A serious geologist winked at Sylvia and repeated, "And I told you, the cards don't lie. You owe me a chocolate cake, or better yet, two." The news spread quickly through the city and reached Austin. He drank bitter and was furious. "What a jerk I am! Why couldn't I live with Sylvia? I fell for Caroline. Damn her. And as a result, no millions, no fiancé, no mistress, nothing. I was left with nothing. I'd have been a cheese and butter." Sylvia and Evan lived very well. They matched each other, like those puzzles she gave the baby. It was as if the three of them were made for each other. She told her husband the story of her birth. They all visited the grave of her parents and Evan's late wife together. They had no skeletons in the closet and no secrets from each other. Sylvia often thought, snuggling up to him at night, "I've only known him for a little while, and I'm so happy. And with Austin, we dated so long, and he was such a duplicitous. That's how it is in life.